Bengals fans, make sure you hit that sub button for me if you haven't done so already. As you can see, we're free here at Bengals Breakdown. Always have been, always will be. Places, things like ESPN Plus. That's upwards of $120 per year. You don't need to be paying that. Come over here to Bengals Breakdown for all the best Bengals news and rumors coverage. Hit that sub button right now for free. What's going on, Bengals fans? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. And coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking Mel Kiper Jr. and his latest / final mock draft of this kind of 2025 draft season. Of course, we got the draft around the corner here in a couple of weeks. So we're going to be breaking down all of his picks. By the way, it is a 2-round mock draft, so 2 selections for the Cincinnati Bengals. Going to be breaking those down and have a reaction to that as well. So let's get it going here with our picks, or excuse me, Mel Kiper Jr.'s picks. Cam Ward going 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans, followed up by Travis Hunter to the Cleveland Browns. Abdul Carter, number 3 overall to the New York Football Giants. Will Campbell going at number 4 to New England, despite those concerns about those short arms that everybody loves talking about. Mason Graham, 5 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ashton, Jeanty, I still say that's too high for a running back there at 6, but that's where Kiper has him falling to the Las Vegas Raiders. Armand Membou, big fan of him in his game, going number 7 overall out of Missouri to the New York Jets. Jalon Walker, a guy that we have mocked here for the Cincinnati Bengals. I see Jalon Walker mocked to the Panthers more so than really just about any player. That's who Kiper has as well. Number 9, Shedeur Sanders, finally off the board here to New Orleans. Certainly an interesting fit there. Tyler Warren, he's a can't-miss guy, right? Clearly, tight end 1 in this NFL draft class. For me, that's kind of a slide when you're looking at Warren there at 10, in my opinion. Will Johnson, 11 overall, out of Michigan to the Niners. Omarion Hampton, Dallas takes a running back at 12. A couple of more here before we get to Cincinnati selection. At 17, Jahdae Barron, 13 overall to the Miami Dolphins. Out of Texas, Colston Loveland off the board, 14 to the Colts. Mike Green, a guy that's been popularly mocked to the Cincinnati Bengals, is gone to Atlanta here in this draft at number 15. And then Matthew Golden, another Texas guy, is the first receiver off the board here for Mel Kiper Jr. at number 16 overall. So in my opinion, these are the 10 best possible players on the board for Cincinnati to potentially select at that number 17 overall spot. They're not going to take a receiver, but had to throw Teteroa McMillan on this list. Was kind of surprised to see him fall and go after Matthew Golden there of Texas. You guys know how much love I got for those safeties, Nick Amon-Wari, as well as Malachi Starks, both available here at number 17 overall for Cincinnati. Jihaad Campbell, big fan of him as well. We spent some time talking about Gray Zabel, interior offensive lineman for North Dakota State. Shemar Stewart is a guy that a lot of people have been hyping up. He's got the traits, right? But the production certainly has not been there. James Pierce Jr., another guy we've talked about. Donovan Jackson as well, an interior offensive lineman for Ohio State. Who does Mel Kiper have Cincinnati taking? Jihaad Campbell, another guy that we've spent a lot of time talking about here on Bengals Breakdown, the linebacker out of Alabama. And really, I'm a big fan of this selection, which we'll get to here in a minute. But first, the pinned comment of today's video. What is your one-word reaction to the Jihaad Campbell draft pick? Let me know in the comments of today's show. I would totally be all right with this, but one word for me in the comment section right now. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. You can ignore it. Sound off for us right now in the comments. All right, let's see what Mel Kiper Jr. had to say about the Cincinnati Bengals in this particular selection of Jihaad Campbell at number 17 overall. Kiper wrote, "The Bengals spent big money this offseason to keep their offensive core around for the long term, and now it's time to turn the focus to the other side of the ball. What happens with Trey Hendrickson looms large. If he does end up getting traded after requesting a move, Cincinnati certainly has to look at the pass rushers on the board. I could see Texas A&M Shemar Stewart fitting, but his lack of production might scare off teams this early. Going to wait until we know more about Hendrickson's future and instead go with Campbell, who is a complete football player. Look at his stat line from 2024. 112 tackles, 5 sacks, 11.5 tackles for loss, 16 pressures, 12 run stops, 1 interception, 4 pass breakups, and 2 forced fumbles. And remember that Jermaine Pratt, the Bengals starting middle linebacker, also requested a trade this offseason. Now, sign me up for Jihaad Campbell, right? What is the thing that I have come on this program and said time in and time out, video in and video out? I am ready for a guy to be drafted in the first round, to be ready to come into this Cincinnati Bengals locker room, this Cincinnati Bengals organization, and have an ability to make an impact immediately. That's what Cincinnati desperately needs. Think about the money that Mel Kiper's been alluding to with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They got to draft well, and these guys that are picked high in the draft got to come in and they got to be ready to go right now. Jihaad Campbell certainly fits that bill, in my opinion. I view him as a can't-miss guy. He is going to be good in the NFL at that linebacker spot. The question is, do you have other positions of need that need to be addressed more so than that linebacker position, right? This is a guy that played for Nick Saban, of course, for finishing his career under Kalen DeBoer. I thought he clearly was the best player defensively for the Alabama Crimson Tide this past season. And like Mel Kiper alluded to, he's just a complete football player, right? His numbers and coverage, pretty good, right? He's great in the run-stopping game. He can come in there and make tackles. He is a willing tackler. He is a sure tackler, something that Cincinnati obviously really struggled at this past season, not being able to get guys on the ground like they need to at a high level. Jihaad Campbell, I get it if you're like, I don't want to take a linebacker, right, in the first round there at number 17 overall. I understand if you're worried about that position being addressed maybe a little bit later on in the draft because there are other pressing needs in your opinion. But this is a safe pick here with Jihaad Campbell. He can come in. Oh, man, him next to Logan Wilson, I think that would be really, really good for really, really long here in Cincinnati. And that would be awesome to see Jihaad Campbell get picked to the Bengals in the first round. And that is what Kiper has in this latest mock. We'll get to Kiper's second-round selection here in a second. But first, got to give a shout-out to our friends over at Game Time, because today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying all tickets, but really MLB tickets as well. They've got those last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They also have a Game Time Picks feature. Makes last minute ticket buying easier than ever by quickly highlighting the best deals in the stadium. Also got the zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. I'm a big fan of the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. All right, let's get to this second round mock here for Mel Kiper Jr. Not going to finish out the first round. Just going to pick it up right here at number 33 overall. Cleveland takes Tyler Shuck. That's pretty hilarious. That's a Cleveland move right there if I have ever seen one. Jalen Milroe going 34 to the New York Giants. We'll call him OO going 35 overall out of UCLA to the Tennessee Titans. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State, 36 to Jacksonville. I like that fit a lot, actually. For the Jags, Carson Schlesinger, linebacker out of UCLA, going to the Las Vegas Raiders. The receiver here, Luther Burden III, wide receiver out of Missouri, going to the Patriots. Walter Nolan to the Bears. Azariah Thomas, talked about here as a potential second-round pick for Cincinnati, going to New Orleans. Travion Henderson, running back spot. I think he's going to really have a good career. He's going to Chicago here in this Kiper mock. Elijah Arroyo, 42 overall to the Jets. Kenneth Grant, going to the Niners out of Michigan. Trey Amos, going to the Cowboys out of Ole Miss. Jonah Savaiinaea, offensive lineman, going to the Indianapolis Colts here. Benjamin Morrison, who of course is a popular mock to Cincinnati with those ties to Al Golden, is off the board here. Tyler Booker slides all the way down to 47 for Mel Kiper Jr. A lot of people have him as a top 20 pick. Not Kiper in this latest mock. And then Darius Alexander out of Toledo, a big fan of him in his game, going off the board at 48 overall. Leads us to 49 overall in Cincinnati selection, and Mel Kiper has them selecting JT Tuimoloau. I also love this pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, bringing in an edge rusher, obviously a position that needs to be addressed. And they do it here in Kiper's mock, getting Tuimoloau in the second round. So kind of recap here. Got Jihaad Campbell in the first round at number 17 overall. And then you have JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State in the second round. Now, do me a favor, get in the comment section and grade that 2-round NFL draft haul for me in the comments, A, B, C, D, or F. I'm giving this an A. I am really fired up about that. If Cincinnati could get Jihaad Campbell and Tuimoloau in the first 2 picks, if there are 6 picks that they have available to them in the 2025 NFL draft, I think that would spell very, very good things to come for Cincinnati. But regardless, I want to know what you guys think. Get down in the comment section. Give that Kiper mock a grade for me right now. All right, let's get into what exactly Kiper had to say about JT Tuimoloau and the Bengals, saying regardless of whether Trey Hendrickson stays in Cincinnati, the Bengals have to do something to improve the rest of the pass rush. Tuimoloau, my number 2 defensive end in the class, had 12.5 sacks and 46 pressures last season. Tuimoloau is a guy that played every year for Ohio State and seemingly got better and better and better. Obviously, when he was younger, I think it was his sophomore year, he really, anytime they played Penn State, he seemingly exploded. But a lot of people really thought he kind of was going to go off his junior year and then essentially go to the NFL after that. Didn't have the best year as a junior, and then, boy, did he make a great decision coming back to Columbus to play in 2024 as a senior. Taking a look at those numbers, absolutely went off. 12.5 sacks, 22 tackles for a loss for Tuimoloau. Unbelievable. Just shows his dedication, 1, to his teammates, but 2, to winning and getting after that goal of bringing a national title to Columbus. Several members of that Ohio State defense opted to come back and were able to ultimately reach their goal of winning a national championship. It's a guy that's played in big-time football games. He's an Ohio guy, right? He's not obviously from Ohio, as he's a Washington guy, but he spent 4 years in Columbus, so I think that is enough to be considered an Ohio guy, in my opinion, when we're talking about JT Tuimoloau. And I would love to have him in Cincinnati. Look, I've picked on Cincinnati for having a couple too many Michigan guys, and that's not even coming from an Ohio State fan. But I think especially Hubbard retiring, probably be a good idea to bring a Buckeye into this building, help balance some things out with all those Wolverines. I think they could use some of that energy and that grit that Ohio State displayed on their national championship run this past year. Tuimoloau was a big reason why they were able to do that. I think he's going to have a great career in the NFL. You put him across Trey Hendrickson, and I think good things could happen if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. Do not miss any more of our coverage here at Bengals Breakdown later this week. We're actually going to have a live show tomorrow, and I will have another 7-round mock draft for the Cincinnati Bengals. It will be my 3rd one. Not quite sure if it will be my last one or not. I'll probably do at least one more, but hopefully it is a really good one. If you want to see that, don't miss out. Hit that sub button for me right now.